call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Boom. This one, let's go ahead and add one more Megafig to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we will be taking a look at Kryptonite Doomsday. Now, I have been sitting on this figure for more than a week. I just couldn't get around to taking a look at him. Now, I have to be really honest with you guys, and that is that not a big fan of a lot of the niche repaints and redos that McFarlane does. I'm talking about the black and whites, the glow in the dark, the nightmare versions. Um, the main important thing is for these figures to appeal to you and to do something for you, or something that you want in your collection, something interesting. And that is why I am taking a look at this one, because I did find it rather interesting about the character and the reason we have this mega fig. But if, I'm not feeling it, I'm just not gonna, take a look at it or review it. So it is very rare that I review, a repaint or one of those specialized versions of characters from McFarlane, like the Frost edition. That's another one that I'll probably never get around to taking a look at. Not to say that I do not want these figures, because I do own some glow in the dark and some black and white versions. I really want that black and white Aquaman. I'm almost ready to pull the trigger on that one. I do want that one in my collection. But that is a big thing about having, a channel and taking a look at these figures, that it has to be interesting. It has to be motivating for you. And a lot of those figures just, don't do it for me. But this one is pretty cool, pretty interesting. We'll take a look at some comparisons and then have them go up against Superman and a version of Batman. So pretty sweet. Now, this guy does look pretty patriotic in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, especially for this guy, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also has his data file card. On the front, you do have an image from the comics right there, having a battle against Batman and Superman. Pretty interesting, the story behind this guy. If you take a look on the back, you do have some information on him. And, from what I, get, he is Joshua Walker from Kansas, from the Midwest, the same as Superman. And he wanted to, fight for his country, or, do something for his country. So he joined the military. That is where he came across Amanda Waller and this program that they were doing, where they were going to combine Kryptonite and the DNA from Doomsday to make a creature. Now, not necessarily to wreak havoc and cause destruction, but as a contingency plan against if Superman ever went rogue. And like many things that start off, as a positive, or, meaning to do good, not too sure, kind of seems like it ends up going wrong. As you all know, I'm not too much into the current comics, but I do like to do my homework and know a little bit at least about the characters. Now, interestingly enough, people had already done customs of this figure. Like, people knew this character existed. So I did go online and find a couple of pretty interesting customs that people tried to do to represent this character. Now, in the comics, his code name is All American Boy, due to the fact that he's, fighting for the country and came, from a small town representing middle America. So I would have liked to have seen that, name on the packaging, especially on the back, All American Boy, Doomsday. But no, it is true. It is a Kryptonite version of Doomsday. We do have reuse of the Doomsday body and some parts from the original Devastator. But the main thing, of course, is the fun factor. We'll hold on to this and let's go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. You know, this is how he is represented in the comics on first impressions. All he is a Doomsday, you know, with a different head because he is spliced from a different person with DNA from Doomsday and a little bit of synthetic kryptonite in there. And I do think that's a reason why Superman is able to battle with him because the kryptonite isn't, you know, necessarily real kryptonite. So he can battle with him, so but he does get sort of weakened. At least that's my theory. But pretty nice sculpt work, pretty nice color. That's the main thing about this figure that drew him to me is like his pop. He has a lot of that color pop. Looks like some, you know, pretty tasty shelf candy. So I wasn't too disappointed to add him to the collection. Pretty nice looking version of Doomsday. But it is reuse. We've seen, you know, the rest of this body before with the original Doomsday. The only major difference is the color scheme, and they did add a lot of the details that they omitted on that first run of Doomsday. Now, I do think that has to do with that first Doomsday was like all the money went into making the molds and adapting the Devastator parts to make their Doomsday. So they did kind of skip on certain parts of, you know, details of paint and stuff like that. But since this one, the mold is already made, they can add a little bit more attention to detail and attention to the paint. Now, a wash would look really good on this. They only did one really on the head sculpt. And taking a closer look at that head sculpt, really kind of Predator vibes it gives. It does have some sort of dreadlocks with actually more of a intimidating and horrid face sculpt. Looks really creepy. Pretty awesome that they did retain articulation in the mouth with this guy. Minimal articulation in the head because of the dreadlocks and the spikes. Can look down, can look right to left. Really tight though, but it is a great looking head sculpt. You got a little hint of red and green like mixed in to the palette of the face, which you got to really look close at it to see. Kind of looks like he does have a like a A printed on his forehead or something like that, some kind of paint. Not too sure. You'd have to be a aficionado of the comics to know all of the details, but a really striking, cool looking figure. Now you do have the same articulation as before. Starting at the waist, you do have side to side. You have that full tilt-a-whirl. Really nice. You got lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, which is pretty smooth. Now he does have a forward crunch, which is rather interesting. Really nice deep crunch there forward. Can twist him, get him in some cool poses. I mean, pretty much what we've come to expect from the waist articulation from McFarlane. Shoulder, you got that bushing socket joint. You do got twist at the elbow to compensate for the single joint. And of course, you got those pretty vicious, horrendous spikes protruding from the fist and from the forearms. On the other side, you have the same thing. Now, here's one of the first details that they added was they painted the shards of costume here around the bicep. Matches the same dark green from the paint from the shorts. And of course, you have that grasping hand on the right side. Pretty cool. Get him in a T-pose. Got some thigh swivel. Minimal, but it is there. You can kick up. Have that single jointed knee, but it does have swivel as well. You got that McFarlane hip shake. Pretty nice. You don't necessarily have swivel at the boot, but you have rocker. And if you want to twist it, as I said, you do have rotation at the calf. More of these spikes. Now, the spikes all over are made of a soft plastic and they do glow. If you get this guy charged up, or if you put a black light on him as so, He does glow very nicely, giving him a pretty nice glow effect on the shelf. Pretty awesome looking Doomsday figure. Now in the back, you have the same great sculpt work, attention to detail. Another thing they did add was in the Doomsday release, they didn't paint the trim around the top cuff of the boot. And of course, in this one, they did have enough in the budget to get all of that, extra paint work. Now, I do think a wash would really be appreciated. You can add that yourself. It is not hard to add a wash, but I do think they could have had some money left in the budget to give it a wash, unless these, glow in the dark spikes were really pricey. But all in all, great figure. Not disappointed at all. He's gonna look awesome on the shelf. You can put him with different displays, different setups, some battles. I did have some fun taking pictures of him beating the brakes off of this Kit Bash Superman with, bleeding lip, and also this, yelling Batman. Don't really get to use that Rebirth Batman a lot, so it was pretty fun to add him into the fray. Got some cool shots of them battling, stomping a mud hole into Superman. Pretty fun. But of course, the only limit is your imagination, what you could do with this guy. Now, I did say he comes originally from the parts of Devastator. Now, this version of Doomsday is more of a Bruce Wayne mixed with Doomsday, so they didn't make him, super large. And there is a lot of sculpted details, like the back is not the same. It has some different shards of material that this Doomsday does not have. Of course, the feet are bare, gnarly feet. So just the premise of it comes from this, but the actual repaint is going to be your, original Doomsday that we received. Pretty awesome figure. Now, this one is very pricey on the aftermarket. If you didn't pick one of these up, gonna cost you around $70 for this guy. Now, I did go ahead and repaint the things that they missed on the original release, which was the trim of the material that he ripped on his containment suit. This is, he ripped out of that containment suit in the original comics. And I did paint the silver trim around the boots and added silver to the other parts of the costume. Pretty nice. He does have that cool articulation as well. In fact, all of these have articulated jaws, which is nice. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with them. Like I said, not a big thing, not something spectacular, but it is cool to add them to my mega shelf or to use them for some figure photography. And he does have that cool glow effect, which is always interesting and pops on the shelf. But anyways, awesome to add him to the collection. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.